This is another tutorial, and this one is about how to work with conditional and set variable prototyping triggers that Figma has come up with since past few months. I would say that is something um, very helpful and kind of a relief, where you don't have to work with multiple screens, and you can have these variables that can be conditioned and set together to work around. So without any further delay, I will go ahead with the varied variables and how you can work with the different use cases. For now, this is, imagine there is a product app, and a user wants to add in quantities and and further take it to the cart. So I'll just work with how a user can add the quantities in the cart. So without any further delay, let's get started. So I've prepared my design. As you can see, my CTAs with their properties make sure that everything is aligned. Like, this is the idle state, hover state, idle unavailable, and hover unavailable. I'll make a video on how to work with components and the states and the cart CTA. Again, their respective state of false and true. So yeah, let's get started. Make sure that nothing is selected, and we hit on the local variable feature on the properties panel, and we create the first number, and we add in the quantity. Since I've started with 4, so the value will be 4. It's up to you according to the design and your need. And we connect the first CTA with the second, and it will be the hover state, smart animate, and pretty much your choice, but I've just gone with ease out. And let's begin with the interaction. So first things first, we'll not go and make another interaction by connecting two CTAs, but first thing will be setting a variable. And since the quantity is there as we just created it, so it helps you to set the state, whether it's getting added on or subtracted or multiplied accordingly, since it has to be subtracted from the main quantity. So we'll do -1 for now, considering the use case. And we'll drop the first instance again, right? So Figma allows you to get the preview without, going full on in the presentation mode. Now only the hover is working, and you must be wondering why this is not changing. So first things first. As you see, this layer has 2 sub-layers in it since we are working with the number. So make sure that layer is selected, and we go over to the properties panel and apply that variable, right? And now if you'll see the preview, it's going to work. There you go. But you may wonder why it's going to negative. You don't want that negative, right? So we can do that by conditioning it. And how we do it, we hit on to the prototype mode again, and we add an interaction, nesting an interaction, and putting a condition that when quantity is greater than 0, we start to again use that same statement of reducing the number, right? So that it becomes a conditional but a set variable for the trigger. And what do I mean by that? If you hit play, this is what I mean, that once it hits greater than 0, it will not go to that negative amount, right? So that's one variable. Second, tackling the Boolean, I'll take this cart because that's how we have the states of false and true, right? So hitting in that and naming it properly in cart, and we set the first as false because we don't want the true version to be highlighted first, right? That's done. And we drop in the first instance. So this can also be, tackled with the toggle switch out here, but we don't want users to coming in our Figma board and doing that, right? So how do we make that interaction in an actual prototype? So again, going to the properties and the prototype thing, we add a variable, and for that we again add an interaction that in cart, when the quantity is greater than 0, we put the true state, right? And of course we need to bind that instance with it, and how we do it by applying that same variable and connecting with the local variable that we just created. Now we shall see the action at the minute it's increasing. You see it's changed the color, right? That's another one. And working with the string, how do we work that? So for that, let's say we want to show the CTA as disabled and we don't want to connect it again, with the first variant to another and not have multiple screens either, right? So how can we do that? As you saw, I had the state and of course the state of those CTAs, like is it available, unavailable. So that's where this comes in handy. And again, deselecting everything and making the string variable. So this is cart text because this is text of the cart, making sure everything is aligned because that's how you get those triggers properly, right? And we put the first value as available. Right, and how do we make that interaction? Again, we go ahead in the prototype. So here will be a condition first, right? Because it's not a nested variable. So we set a condition that when the quantity is equal to 0, because that's when we want the disabled CTAs coming in, right? The action would be setting a variable, and that will be the card text. Since it's a string, we can just go ahead and write unavailable, right? That's the trigger. And how do we make sure it's connected with the instance? Again, we have to bind this and making sure in the properties panel that it's not binded with the state but the text, since it's a string variable, right? So that's connected, and let's see it in action. There you go. Even if it's hovering, it's disabled. So this is how you work with the 3 variables. The color one I'll take up in the next one. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and continue to experiment and explore. Bye bye.